Yes, in my previous video, I've shown you how to design this basketball. I did it a more technical approach. This is the video you can see over here. And this had like 102 steps. But now I just found that actually SelfCAD has an older tutorial from September 23 by David, which is a much simpler tutorial, has only 39 steps, and it's using a more kind of artistic approach. If you think about the approach I did, is more of technical drawing approach, and this is more of basic shapes and bending. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of this tutorial, how this looks like. So to get started, this is using a basic sphere, and it's setting the segments over here. It's using the max segments, horizontal segments 128, and the vertical 64. I actually use both 64s, but 128 is better. I just want to say here a quick note that SelfCAD is actually updating this. It was a request by some users that to allow the vertical segments to be smoother. So both of them will be 128, and some other rounded shapes will be updated to have more smoothness. But so far, we're basically making a basic sphere over here that looks quite smooth. And then we're creating a torus. Instead of using a line and then follow path the way I did it, this is just using a thinned out torus with a radius of just 2. And then it also has actually the tubular segment is 40, so it gets quite smooth, and then the other side is the radial. Let's see, where's the radial segment is 64, which again is max. I think again this is being updated to make it 128, but for now it's 64 max. And then it's just positioning over here, lifting it up the Y to 2, and rotating it the X to 90, so it will be positioned the other way, so it's rotating it by 90. So we get this basic shape over here, and it's also, what am I missing here? Y to 2, I think it's 0, 0, 0. X to minus 90. Oh, okay. So actually, in this case, it turned out that X minus and positive 90 is the same. So the look is the same, so I got confused. But still, to follow the tutorial, it's got to be negative 90. Okay, so in this case, we're just going to copy this, and we're doing rotation around X to 90 degree. So I actually did this in one shot, copy offset rotation, doesn't really matter. I also do it sometimes this way, sometimes that way, it doesn't really matter. But here it becomes the most interesting. So this actually is much simpler, this approach, than what I did a drawing and follow path. It's just that my approach is a little bit more flexible if you want to have different type of shapes. Like this must be rounded. I actually use a rectangle, so it's more flat. So, but this is optional, but this also looks quite nice. Now this would be interesting. So we're doing a new segment, a new torus over here, which is the same idea. The radius is 47, the two segments. I'm just gonna click next and show what's going on over here. So we basically just creating this part over here, a little bit offset from here, and finalizing it. And now it's actually scaling it down a little bit. So it's not gonna be actually symmetric, like the same of all sides. So it's scaling down the Y, making it to 80. So in this case, what you see over here, this circle is the circular shape actually is wider one side than another, and as a consequence, you see it only partially. And this is where the designer is then going to bend and using actually the default plane, not changing the plane, just changing to bend them from the center and the bottom top plane, which is the default plane, and just bending it on the z-axis to 155. And here you go. This is what you got. So from a visual, this is actually quite nice, and it's actually better. The only downside of this and the difference between technical or these artistic ones is this in general the concept. When you think about artistic, you're thinking that you need to be a very talented designer. You need to understand. If you think about technical, it's something that anyone can follow. You have kind of a document and what to do. So for me, as one, I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't know how much to scale it down. And, I don't have this vision to be able to see this in 3D and kind of guesstimate exactly what needs to be done. And the designers obviously has much better skills than me and able to do it this way. I like more personally the technical approach, which anyone can follow and I can follow, but it's a lot more steps. So that's optional, and it's good we have both versions. And now we're going to copy this. And this is also another interesting thing, which, it's actually, it's a technical approach, something how to copy that. So if you want to copy this over to the other side, there are two ways you can do it. You can mirror it over to this side, and then you need to mirror it with an offset and kind of do it like this. But what this designer is doing is actually quite clever, is you're doing pivot. And pivot is meant to make multiple copies around, but if you choose only one copy, it will basically pivot like this. That's naturally how it is. And I've seen this in other tutorials as well. It's basically quite simple. Okay, so now that we have all of these done, we're just going to combine first all of these tortoises, all of these separate meshes, and just union them together. And now once they're all combined properly, we're going to give them a color. So the color actually is using some default color from the palette. I used a custom color, so yeah, that may be nicer than custom colors, but nonetheless, I mean, colors are something you can change anytime, so that's not a big deal. I simply looked up the color code for basketball and copied that, used that, but now what we have done here is we basically combined them all in two different colors. So now if we're going to subtract, remove this mesh over here, the color will be engraved, cut out, and then also kept the color, and that's it. So this is a really simple approach. So from an artistic way, someone who knows how to follow this and how to calculate these positions, this is actually much simpler, and this is just 39 steps as opposed to mine, which was about 100 steps, 101 I think, and maybe some steps that I use custom colors, added some more steps, but it's a more technical approach. This is marked, mine is marked as intermediate, and this is a beginner, and I think actually this classifies it correctly. This is a beginner tutorial, it's quite easy, and this is more intermediate. But yeah, it's good to see. Actually I have 102 steps, so it's good to see both of them, and I hope you can make the best out of it, and I would like to see what you can do. Thanks for watching. Bye.